everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Andrea. It's nice to have you guys here. Today I feel like I say this about all my videos. They're all special. They're special to me. But this one is a little bit different. I haven't done a video like this and I probably won't do another video like this, at least not for a while. So this is based on the trend of like 30 before 30. So 30 bucket list items you're supposed to do before you turn 30. I'm 37. So it's a little late for a list like that. But I also feel like we focus too much on things that we haven't accomplished and not enough on things we have accomplished, especially within the grad student community. I thought, because I know I've got a lot of grad students who are following me and are now watching me transition into my post-PhD life, as well as viewers who are coming from all different kinds of industries and backgrounds, professional and school backgrounds, who have their own things that they're trying to accomplish. So I thought, in an effort to shut off the voice of imposter syndrome, which for me is a constant companion, that constantly tries to tell me that I'm not good enough and that I haven't done anything worthwhile and I haven't accomplished anything, I thought I'd share a list of 30 things that I accomplished by the age of 37, the age I am now, as well as 10 things that I want to accomplish in the next 2.5 years before I turn 40. If you're anything like me, you probably have a long list of things that you have accomplished. So this is partly to help you learn a little bit more about me, but also to get you to think about your own life and things that you've done and things that you've accomplished. This is actually going to be a blog, or it is a blog post. I haven't posted it at the time that I'm filming this, but it will be live by the time this video goes up. So I've got that blog post on my computer. So if you see me looking down, I'm looking at that list. Let's get into it. So the blog post will have some pictures of some of these things. So if you want to see some, I've got a picture of from my childhood. So if you want to see that, the link will be down below. So go check out the blog post. So accomplishment number 1, I survived my childhood. Which is not as easy as you might think that sounds. Growing up in the US Army is hard. You're constantly moving, you're constantly meeting new friends, saying goodbye to friends. It's rough. My father was frequently away on training exercises. He was deployed to combat duty in 1990, early 91. It wasn't easy. It had its share of challenges. So it was kind of a miracle that I reached my teen years, particularly 16 when my dad retired, still relatively normal. Speaking of my teen years, accomplishment number 2, I survived those as well. I survived my teens and I survived high school. Also, not that easy to do, especially when you go to 2 different high schools and move right before your junior year. So all the friends that I had spent 2 years very carefully building and cultivating those friendships, gone. Had to start over from scratch my junior year in the first all-civilian school that I'd ever attended. My first high school was partly civilian, but there were still a lot of military kids at that school, and you kind of know how to spot each other, so I quickly found those. I feel like for any of us who managed to survive our teen years, it's a huge accomplishment. Adolescence is hell. It really is. And you really couldn't pay me to go back there. Ever. Number 3. I learned some really important lessons about friendship. True friends will never leave you. True friendship survives the army, constant moves, lack of communication and technology, and infrequent long-distance phone calls, because at the time, long-distance phone calls cost a fortune. The fact that I can now call my friends in London on FaceTime and not have to pay an arm and a leg is just amazing. True friendship learns how to send an email, back when email finally became a thing, and then flies back and forth across the country to visit each other, because staying together is more important than taking the easy way out and moving on with friends who live in the same town. So some of my best friendships started well before email and the internet was a thing, you know, with the mass public, and well before social media. It's just so much easier to stay in contact now, and we didn't have that in the 80s and early 90s, mid 90s growing up. Number 4, I starred in my first play. I was Aunt Martha in Arsenic and Old Lace. I was horrible. Well, I shouldn't say that. I did pretty good, all things considered, but I'm really not cut out for comedy. If I say anything even remotely funny, I'm the first person to laugh. I am one of those people that laughs at my own jokes, and so when you're in a play where you're supposed to have a straight face after saying something really funny and the audience are laughing their heads off, I want to laugh too, and you can't do that when you're the actor. But I had a blast. It was quite a show. Accomplishment number 5, I moved away from home for the first time. It was only an hour and a half away, but that was far enough that I had to learn how to dispose of cockroaches by myself because my dad wasn't going to drive from Phoenix to take care of that for me. Tip, you don't need to use a half a can of Raid to kill one roach. But if you do, make sure you open a window or two before you asphyxiate yourself. Kind of learned that lesson the hard way. Accomplishment number 6, I learned about loss. True loss. I survived losing the best thing I ever had in my life, my best friend. I was devastated, and I kind of thought at the time that I wasn't going to survive. I felt like all of the sun and all of the oxygen had been taken from me and I would just collapse in a pool of grief. And I did a few times. Long nights just crying myself to sleep, days walking through life like a zombie. But day by day I managed to get on with my life, even if only to honor hers, because I knew that the one thing that she would probably never forgive me for is if I stopped living because she did. So, number 7, I learned it is okay to change your mind about your degree. Change your degree, change your schools, then change degrees again. I did it all. It's my education, and if a program wasn't working, I wasn't going to stay in it. Ultimately, I had to do what was right for me and my education and my future and my career. Number 8, related to that, even when I finally switched back to theater for my undergrad, I allowed myself to pursue costume design more than acting. It was where I felt more comfortable and what I was really good at. I was open to change and new opportunities, and it all worked out pretty well in the end. Number 9, I was a costume assistant on a film called Moon Pie. You will not have heard of it. No one's really heard of it. The director's next film was his big break, so I just missed it. But I do have an IMDb credit for that film. Number 10, I survived being burglarized. I did do a story time about this here on my channel. I lost pretty much all of my valuable personal property, jewelry, laptop, digital camera, everything, half of my DVD collection. So I had to start over from scratch, and I learned valuable lessons about having personal property insurance and home security along the way. Number 11, I got a master's degree in media arts and learned a lot about grad school along the way. It would be another few years, about 3 years before I would go back to grad school. That first stint in grad school definitely taught me a lot. A lot. Number 12, I survived an economic crisis that basically made my first master's degree worthless. It has worth now, but at the time, so many community colleges were not only not hiring new people, they were laying off existing instructors, something that hadn't happened like in forever. It was always very rare for there to be kind of mass layoffs in the community colleges. That was hard because that had been my whole plan, get a master's degree and then go be a community college instructor and then maybe do a PhD down the road if I needed to. I ended up needing to a lot sooner than I thought. But as a result of this, I found a job working in a costume shop and ended up relying on my costume design and sewing skills and eventually picking up a teaching job on the side, and I kind of got by until I went back to grad school. Number 13, I was a costume designer for a number of amazing productions, including the Scarlet Pimpernel, You Can't Take It With You, Drowsy Chaperone, the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, that was a fun one, and more. I worked with amazing actors, directors, choreographers, and have had some amazing assistants over the years, some of whom have gone on to be amazing designers in their own right. Number 14, I got a great score on the essay portion of my GRE. We won't talk about my math score. 15, I turned 30. It was good riddance to my 20s, and hello to what has definitely been the best decade so far. 16, I have been to London 8 times in, 8 years. I started going in, and these are just the adult trips. There was once as a kid. I went for the first time in 2010 and it's 2018, so I've been to London 8 times in 8 years. I've been 4 times in the winter, 3 times in the summer, and once in the fall. And it's been a love affair that's lasted 8 years so far and is still going strong. 17. I made the crazy and questionable choice to go back to grad school and get a second master's degree in English. And I found my true research calling in the process, so I'd say it all worked out. 18, I started a blog. That was crazy. It started as a class assignment, but I kept it going. Some of the posts have been more popular than others, but it's always been more of a personal diary than a traditional popular blog, and so it's kind of okay. I love it, and even though I have taken some extensive breaks from it, I always come back to it because I love it. And so kind of like this YouTube channel, it's one of the things that I would keep doing even if no one was reading or watching. Number 19, I applied to 7 PhD programs and got rejected from 6. But as I learned, it only takes 1 acceptance. And I got that one and off I went. Number 20, I got my first publication, which was really exciting, in a book on Bond girls and the James Bond franchise. It was based on my master's thesis project. It was terrifying and exciting to work on, but once it was done, I had that book to hold in my hand and I could see my name in black and white with all of my research, and that was pretty darn cool. 21, I studied in Oxford twice, 2 summers in a row. One was an official study abroad program, the other was me just kind of as an independent scholar. I saved up a lot of money in between the two so that I could go back that second year and rent a flat for 3 months. Both summers were incredibly worth it. They were both huge learning experiences with a ton of personal growth. So I wouldn't trade either of those summers for anything. 22, I've been to some dark places with my mental health. One of those times was during that second summer in Oxford. It was incredibly difficult and incredibly terrifying, and if I didn't know so much about mental health and that was what I was struggling with, I am a bit scared to think of how that summer might have played out, but I survived them all and I am stronger for all of those experiences. I've learned when and how to reach out for help and to not struggle through it by myself. I've learned the value of a good therapist and the importance of self-care. It really does make a difference. You have to take care of yourself and put yourself first before you're going to be able to take care of anyone or anything else. I have learned that I am more than good enough, whatever good enough means, and I'm believing that more and more every day. 23, another tough one. I have watched people I love take their last breath. Death is such a mix of emotions, and it's hard enough when someone dies that you're not there to witness it, but as hard as witnessing it is, and I'm speaking specifically of losing grandparents. I was there for my grandfather's passing when I was in my 20s, again for my grandmother's passing when I was, that was just a few years ago, so mid-30s. And in both cases, I was sitting in the room with them and watched them take their last breath. And it was devastating, but it's also a privilege to be there with someone that you love and to help them make that transition. And so as devastating as both of those experiences were, I'm really glad I was there. 24, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. That's not fun. But rather than giving into it or blaming my body for failing me, I've learned how to work with my body and manage my condition and live my life beyond the limitations of this condition. Just as in the case of my mental health, my mental and physical illnesses are a part of me, but they don't define me. And I think that is a journey that everyone who's struggling with a mental or a physical illness has to go through in order to then live any kind of quality of life. 25, I started a YouTube channel. I look back at this little channel and I'm so proud of what I've managed to do. It truly is amazing. I never thought that I would have even 100 subscribers, and so to have 840-ish, plus or minus, is where we're at now, and growing, and to be significantly closer to 1,000 subscribers than to 100. I'm just amazed. It was such a crazy, random idea at the time. It was definitely something I did on a whim and a lark. Didn't think anything was going to come of it, and now more than 2 years later, I can't imagine not doing this. So, thank you. because you guys are a part of that. 26. I learned about healing. It took me more than a decade since learning about loss to finally start learning how to heal. Not just from the death of my best friend, but also a million other losses. I finally started learning how to heal the wounds of the past and not giving them so much control over my future, which is so much easier said than done, but is something that I'm really proud of myself for finally kind of taking those steps and learning those lessons and putting those things into practice. Some wounds still haven't healed, but I am getting there, little bit, day by day. 28. I presented at 2 international conferences, one here in Phoenix, one in London, but both of them were international audiences, people from all over the world who came to listen to my research. The first one was daunting because it was all rhetoric. Well, not all rhetoric scholars, but the theme was feminism and rhetoric. And so it was a lot of people in the broader field that I was in, and I've always struggled with feeling like I was a good enough rhetoric scholar, and so I really wanted my research to be taken seriously within a group of women and men who were studying more obviously important. I try to be careful with my word choice there. My work is important, but some research is more obviously important, and I feel like I have to explain my importance a little bit more. So that conference was incredibly nerve-wracking. The second one was in London. That was back in October, and that was to an audience of clothing scholars. And so that was nerve-wracking because these were people doing research in my immediate field. How would my research go over with a group of people that really knew the clothing and dress and fashion scholarship that I was bringing in? It ended up being a huge success. The room was packed. It was standing room only, and people were saying that they had come specifically for my presentation, which I was not used to that at all, so that was a really cool feeling. Number 29, I wrote, revised, defended, and passed my dissertation and defense and earned my PhD. How crazy is that? I think after years of hard work, you kind of feel like it might not happen. You might not actually graduate, but I did, and it was amazing. And number 30, and I'm gonna read this straight out because it'll just be easier and faster. I have laid to rest doubts about my abilities as a scholar and exorcised ghosts of professors past who made me feel like I wasn't good enough and didn't belong in academia. I have learned that I might not have a traditional academic career, but that's okay, because it's my career and I'll define myself as I want to be and not as what I should be in quotes. I am good enough. I am smart enough. I have climbed Mount PhD one step at a time until I reached the summit. I battled the demons and went toe-to-toe with imposter syndrome on a near daily basis. I suffered through the death zone of all those final weeks of writing and revising before my defense. I met an incredible amount of other grad students, both in my program and in other programs, connecting with scholars all over the world through social media. Finding your blogs, your Twitters, your Instagram accounts kept me going and kept me feeling from alone and isolated, even during those darkest months, writing alone in my apartment and teaching online, so I never left my apartment unless I had to. It took me 9.5 years, 12 if you count the 3 years in between my 2 MA degrees, to realize that I needed to stop waiting for life to start and that I was really creating the life I wanted and I needed to start living it in the moment. So that brings us up to the present day. I'm 37. In less than 1,000 days, I will turn 40. I'm not a big fan of resolutions. I hate resolutions. I haven't made New Year's resolutions for many, many years now. But I do love setting realistic goals. So here are 10 things I want to accomplish before 40. Now I'm just going to list these out. I do have short descriptions or like responses to each of them. If you would like to know more about these goals, go down to the description box and click the link to my blog. Number 1, which I've already accomplished, get a job. Number 2, start doing some freelance writing and editing because student loans won't pay themselves. Number 3, write a book proposal and try to get my dissertation published. Number 4, finish writing my current novel and try to get either it or my first novel, or both, published. That's a lot by 40, but I'm I'm gonna try. Number 5, visit the UK at least twice before turning 40. Number 6, I want to start sewing again. Number 7, keep growing and building my online community through my socials, my blog, and my YouTube channel. Number 8, visit the Grand Canyon again. Number 9, start laying the groundwork for starting my own business and being self-employed. And number 10, move to the UK? Question mark? I'm not sure if I can do it before 40, but I'm darn well going to try. So there we go. I think that's a pretty good list. Some of these things will definitely be easier to accomplish than others, but I've kind of gotten used to challenging myself, so let's see what happens. Okay, so that's it. What have you accomplished? Whether you are 20, 30, 40, I don't care how old you are. I don't care about 30 before 30 or 40 before 40. I want to know, what are 2 or 3 things right now that you have accomplished, that you can look back in your life and say, yeah, I did that. I'd like for us as a community to start thinking more about what we have accomplished and not what we haven't, because it's easier to accomplish things that are still on your list when you acknowledge and value the things that you've already done, because you are strong enough, smart enough, good enough, all of those things enough right now as you are. You don't have to become better at anything before you can accomplish the things that are still on your list of things to do. Please go read the blog post below. You'll find some extra pictures and then more detailed descriptions of my 10 things to do before 40. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Please click the subscribe button and stick around to watch more of my future videos. Thank you very much for watching this one. I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.